So federal law says that the Ways and Means Committee in Congress is allowed to see anybody's tax returns that they want to, even the president's. It is black letter, clear law. It's not legally controversial. There's plenty of precedent to support it, even getting the president's tax returns that way. It's been that way forever. It's been that way for like a century. Well, a few months ago, in April, Democrats in the House decided that they would use that power. The chairman of that committee, the Ways and Means Committee, Massachusetts Congressman Richie Neal, told the Treasury Department that he was going to invoke that authority. And he therefore requested from the Treasury Department 6 years of President Trump's tax returns. Chairman Neal set a deadline for them to respond, and then another deadline, and Treasury just blew right through them. So then the House Democrats decided they would subpoena the Treasury Department to get the president's tax returns. Treasury basically blew that off, too. In response, last month, the committee filed a federal lawsuit to enforce the subpoena. And ever since, that case has been sort of, plunking along, slowly, bump-a-dump-a-dump. Until this week, suddenly there was like this confetti cannon of new activity, new filings. Richie Neal's committee asked the judge for expedited consideration and a summary judgment because, quote, there are no genuine issues of material fact at issue in this case. On the other side of it, the Trump Justice Department told the judge to go slow, not fast. They're claiming that there are complex constitutional issues at stake. They told the judge this week there's no reason to bring these proceedings to a gallop. This is a horse that would prefer to trot and go very slow. So this is a case, as I say, it's been plodding along, methodically moving its way. All of a sudden this week, though, there's been a ton of action in this case and a ton of paper, literally a ton of paper. For the motion from Congress this week, the one that asked the judge to go ahead and rule, asked for a summary judgment, there were 54 different attachments filed to that motion. And I, like a jerk, decided I would print them all out, which was a bad move. Except, turns out, tucked in there, if you read enough of them, you eventually get to Exhibit QQ. So you have to use alphabet letters twice once you get past 20. Right. Exhibit QQ is a letter from Ways and Means Chairman Richie Neal to Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Dear Secretary Mnuchin, on July 29th, 2019, the committee received an unsolicited, the word unsolicited is underlined, an unsolicited communication from a federal employee setting forth credible allegations of evidence of possible misconduct, specifically potential inappropriate efforts to influence the mandatory audit program, meaning the mandatory program that requires the audit of the income tax returns of a sitting president. So what the committee is saying here is that they didn't ask for it, but a whistleblower came forward to them from inside the government to give them information, to give them credible allegations of something having to do with the way the IRS is handling Trump's taxes and the audit of Trump's taxes. This whistleblower has come forward, according to the committee, with evidence of possible misconduct related to inappropriate efforts to influence the audit of President Trump's taxes. Back to the letter. Quote, in light of the serious and urgent concerns raised by this new information, I have requested a rolling production of certain documents and communications of specified Treasury and IRS employees. Thank you in advance for your prompt attention to this matter. So it's kind of amazing in this news environment. I mean, this is the only Exhibit QQ. This is the only thing we have seen about this ever, right? I mean, the issue of President Trump not handing over his tax returns, the first president since Watergate to not hand over his taxes. I mean, that's one of the highest profile and longest standing controversies about him as a politician. But it's being pursued as an oversight matter in the House now by one of the quietest and lowest key committee chairman. Richie Neal of Massachusetts is not on television ever for a reason. He likes to do this all very, very quietly, very, very methodically. And so here's this eyebrow-raising claim that a whistleblower has come to the committee with credible allegations that there have been inappropriate efforts to influence the auditing of the president's taxes. And it is buried literally as Exhibit QQ among 51 other attachments to an unheralded court filing that they didn't even put out a press release about. Now, we really don't know what this is about. We don't know what this whistleblower has alleged, and we don't know what these, according to the committee, credible allegations are. We don't know what this whistleblower says has been the inappropriate effort to influence the audit of Trump's taxes. We don't know, but the judge in this case may find out soon. If you go down to the footnotes, quote, the committee is prepared to submit to the court the materials that led to Chairman Neal's request. So, just another day in the president's finances. Now it's a federal judge being offered information from a congressional committee about an unsolicited whistleblower who has come forward with credible allegations of inappropriate efforts to influence the handling of the president's tax audit inside the IRS. So that is now on the burner. And now tomorrow, first thing tomorrow morning, another pot is about to come to a boil. And that story is next with our guest, Tish James, the Attorney General of the state of New York. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.